Namaskar. A warm welcome to World News, an Indian perspective on All India Radio. This is Navneet Singh and with me is Saira Mustaba, bringing glimpses of the major developments of the day from across the globe. Over the next half an hour, we shall bring to you the latest from the world of politics, economy, sports, entertainment and more. The headlines. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar to participate in virtual SCO meeting on Tuesday. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi chairs high-level meeting over bridge collapse in Indian state of Gujarat. 9 persons arrested in connection with tragic incident. Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva elected as new president of Brazil. Israel to hold 5th election in 4 years on Tuesday. United Nations Black Sea grain deal continues without Russia. In Philippines, death toll from tropical storm Nalgae rises to 98. And in cricket, Australia beat Ireland by 42 runs in Super 12 stage fixture of T20 World Cup in Brisbane. The 21st meeting of the Council of Heads of Government of the Member States of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization SCO will be held in the virtual format on Tuesday. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar will represent the country in the meeting. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Zhao Lijian announced that Chinese Premier Li Keqiang will host the meeting in Beijing. At present, India is holding SCO presidency for a year until September 2023, and next year India will host the SCO summit. SCO Heads of State meeting and Heads of Government meeting are the two most important gatherings of the group held annually. The SCO Heads of the Government meeting focuses on the trade and economic agenda of the organization and approves its annual budget. A report from our Beijing correspondent.
Chinese Foreign Ministry said, against the backdrop of changing geopolitics and COVID-19 pandemic, Premier Li Keqiang will have an in-depth exchange of views with other leaders on implementing the outcomes of the SCO summit in September, which was hosted by China, and on advancing SCO security, economic and cultural cooperation to come up with new ideas and new measures. The meeting will be attended by SCO member states, observer states, Secretary General of the SCO, Executive Director of the SCO Regional Anti-Terrorist Structure, RATS, Turkmenistan and other invited guests. India remains actively engaged in various SCO activities and dialogue mechanisms in the region, as well as other multilateral cooperation within the SCO framework with a special focus on promoting connectivity in the region and anti-terrorism measures. After becoming a SCO member in 2017, India for the first time successfully hosted the SCO Council of Heads of Government meeting on 30th November 2020. Among other initiatives, India's diplomatic outreach to the SCO countries also leveraged the soft power of Indian cinema in the region, which has turned out to be a great success. Anshuman Mishra for World News, All India Radio, Beijing.
In today's Hotspot section, we bring to you news commentary on Solar Village, now a mass movement in India.
On a day when people across the world offer prayers to Surya, the sun god, to celebrate Chhath Puja, Prime Minister Narendra Modi said that the accelerated adoption of solar power is changing the lives of the poor and the middle class of India for the better. At a time when the climate change response is critical, Prime Minister Modi's reiteration of solar energy becoming a part of life of the people demonstrates mainstreaming of the renewable sources of energy, which India clearly being an exemplar. In the 94th episode of his monthly Mann Ki Baat broadcast over the All India Radio Network, Prime Minister Modi dwelt on the deep connections of India with nature as illustrated in the worship of the sun god, which is a way for the people to express their gratitude to the source of energy in human life. Solar energy is a subject today in which the whole world is looking at its future, and for India, the sun god has not only been worshipped for centuries but also been the focus of our way of life, said the Prime Minister. Mr. Modi stressed that India is combining its traditional experiences with modern science. This is why today we have become one of the largest countries to generate electricity from solar energy. How solar energy is changing the lives of the poor and middle class of our country is also a subject of study, underlined Prime Minister Modi. In line with the conversational format of the broadcast, the Prime Minister interacted with a number of villagers who shared the good experience of not only saving on the expenses on the electricity consumption, but also earning money after installing the solar panels. The central scheme, PM Kusum Yojana, is seen making visible impacts in the life of the people in the rural areas. Farmers from Tamil Nadu and Rajasthan told the Prime Minister that after they got solar pumps set, they do not have to spend anything on electricity for their farms. The scheme, by promoting the adoption of solar energy, is clearly empowering the farmers by significantly cutting down their input costs. Additionally, Mr. Modi told the listeners that Modhera in Gujarat has become India's first solar village. Most of the houses in Modhera Surya Gram have started generating electricity from solar power. Now, in many houses, there is no electricity bill at the end of the month. Instead, a check from the electricity income is being generated, said the Prime Minister, adding, "Now people are writing letters to me stating that their village should also be converted into Surya Gram." He stated that the construction of Surya Grams will become a big mass movement soon. India has taken big strides in space sciences, and the Indian Space Research Organization ISRO is now truly a global leader in the commercial launch of satellites. Prime Minister Modi deservingly paid rich accolades to the ISRO for placing 36 satellites in space simultaneously, and with this launching from Kashmir to Kanyakumari and from Kutch to Kohima in the whole country, digital connectivity will be further strengthened. Mr. Modi illustrated the significance of the momentous space achievement of the country. Indeed, India is now being preferred for the launch of commercial satellites ahead of Russia, France and China. The Prime Minister reminded that India was denied the cryogenic rocket technology, but the scientists of the country developed indigenous technology to gain self-reliance. The centre indeed has opened up the space sector for the private participants, and the move has already brought a number of startups working with cutting-edge technologies, including nano-satellites. Prime Minister had laid much emphasis on an innovation-based society in his Red Fort speech on the occasion of India's 76th Independence Day this year with the call for Jai Anusandhan. There is a visible momentum as on 14th and 15th October, all 23 Indian Institutes of Technology, IITs, come on one platform for the first time to showcase their innovation and research projects, displaying more than 75 best projects spanning healthcare, agriculture, robotics, semiconductors, 5G communications and others. Prime Minister Modi also shared with the All India Radio listeners that he would be at Mangad on the border of Gujarat, Rajasthan on November 1, where the British had committed a terrible massacre of tribals in November 1913. The tribal movement was led by the famous tribal leader Govind Guru.
In some more news, in the western Indian state of Gujarat, rescue and relief operations are underway after the collapse of a suspension bridge over the Machu River at Morbi district on Sunday evening. Over 132 people lost their lives in the tragic incident. Rescue operations are being carried out by various security agencies, including the Air Force, Army and Navy. Meanwhile, 9 persons, including officials of Oreva, the company that renovated the bridge, ticket sellers and security men, have been arrested for the Morbi bridge collapse. Police informed that the probe is being carried out by the Special Investigation Team. Prime Minister of India Narendra Modi chaired a high-level meeting to review the situation in Morbi. All aspects relating to the tragedy were discussed. The Prime Minister once again emphasized on ensuring that those affected get all possible assistance. The Indian Prime Minister said that Gujarat and the entire nation is swallowed by grief from the loss of lives after the tragedy in Morbi. He said in this hour of grief, all of their thoughts are with the families of the victims. Mr. Modi said he is in constant touch with the officials involved in the relief work. The Prime Minister assured the people of Gujarat that no stone will be left unturned in the relief work.
World leaders, including Russian President Vladimir Putin and Israeli Prime Minister Yair Lapid, on Monday extended their condolences to the families of the people who lost their lives in a tragic bridge collapse. Russian President Vladimir Putin offered his condolences to Indian President Draupadi Murmu and Prime Minister Narendra Modi on the tragedy. In his condolence message, Israeli Prime Minister Lapid said, "The thoughts and prayers of all Israelis are with the people of India following devastating bridge collapse in Gujarat." In a message to Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Sri Lankan President Ranil Wickremesinghe said he is shocked and saddened by the tragic incident. Nepal Prime Minister Sher Bahadur Deoba also mourned the loss of lives in the incident. China also extended sympathies to the bereaved families and to the injured in the tragedy. Mourning the deaths, Poland Foreign Minister Zbigniew Rao said that Morbi has a special place in India-Poland ties. Saudi Arabia, in its statement on the Morbi tragedy, extended its deepest condolences to the families and relatives of the deceased and to the friendly Indian people and wished the injured a speedy recovery. The U.S. Embassy said the U.S. mission in India is deeply saddened by the news of the collapse of a suspension bridge in Gujarat. British High Commissioner to India, Alex Ellis, called the tragedy a terrible and shocking news from Gujarat.
This is All India Radio giving you the world news. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on Twitter at AIR News Alerts.
Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva has been elected as new president of Brazil. He defeated incumbent President Jair Bolsonaro in a close contest. Lula da Silva has secured 50.83% of the votes, whereas his opponent Bolsonaro managed to get 49.17% votes. 76-year-old da Silva focused his campaign on getting Bolsonaro out of office and highlighted his past achievements through his campaign. His campaign promised a new tax regime that will allow for higher public spending. He has vowed to end hunger in the country, which has returned during the Bolsonaro government, whereas 67-year-old Bolsonaro ran for re-election under the Conservative Liberal Party. He campaigned to increase mining, privatize public companies, and generate more sustainable energy to bring down energy prices. Prime Minister of India Narendra Modi congratulated Lula da Silva on winning the presidential elections in Brazil. In a tweet on Monday, Mr. Modi said that he looks forward to working closely together to further deepen and widen the bilateral relations and also mutual cooperation on global issues.
Israel is all set to hold its fifth election in less than 4 years on Tuesday, with former Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu vying for a comeback. The race has been galvanized as support rises for the ultra-nationalist religious Zionism bloc and firebrand co-leader Itamar Ben-Gvir. This will be the first time since 2009 that Benjamin Netanyahu, who is on trial on corruption charges which he has denied, will be running into the polls not as the incumbent. Netanyahu is Israel's longest-serving prime minister and by far the most polarizing political figure in the country today. Outgoing centrist Prime Minister Yair Lapid has billed himself as a voice of decency and unity. He hopes his brief term as head of a caretaker government has shown voters that someone besides Netanyahu can lead the country as well. Israel has seen 4 inconclusive elections since 2019 that delivered 2 short-lived coalition governments. The last 4 elections in Israel ended in an indecisive mandate as alliances fell short of the majority mark in the Knesset. Prime Minister Yair Lapid, who announced an early election following defections from his coalition, will remain in office in the event of a deadlock. Denmark will hold early elections on Tuesday as voters struggle with soaring living costs. The election is expected to change its political landscape, with new parties hoping to enter parliament and others seeing their support dwindle. When announcing the election earlier this month, 7 months before the end of her 4-year term, Prime Minister Frederiksen said she wanted a broad government with parties on both sides of the political middle. She stressed that Denmark, like the rest of Europe, is going through tough times and lawmakers need to stand together. The announcement came when an ally of a minority one-party Social Democratic government threatened to topple Frederiksen with a confidence vote. The centre-left Social Liberals were critical of a government's handling of the 2020 decision to wipe out Denmark's entire captive mink population at the height of the coronavirus pandemic to protect humans from mutation of the virus. The culling led to strong controversy and to a minister's resignation. More than 4 million voters in the small northern European Union nation can choose among 14 parties on Tuesday Domestic themes have dominated the campaign, ranging from tax cuts and a need to hire more nurses to financially support Danes amid inflation and soaring energy prices because of Russia-Ukraine conflict.
India's Chief Election Commissioner CEC Rajiv Kumar, along with Election Commissioner Anup Chandra Pandey, on Monday inaugurated a two-day international conference in New Delhi. The theme of the conference is Role, Framework and Capacity of Election Management Bodies. In his keynote address at the inaugural ceremony, the CEC said that free, fair, inclusive, accessible and inducement-free elections, being a cornerstone of democratic polity, is a precondition to the peace and developmental dividends. The conference is organized by Election Commission of India under Cohort on Election Integrity, led by ECI, which was established as a follow-on to the Summit for Democracy held in December 2021. Mr. Kumar, while highlighting the idea of democracy in India, said that democracy has always been a part of Indian ethos, a way of life. Diverse opinions, dialogue, discussions, accommodation, non-aggression have been intrinsic part of our culture. The CEC offered ECI's expertise in election management to world democracies to take forward the summit's commitments to real outcomes. Addressing the conference, Ms. Elizabeth Jones, Charge d'Affaires, United States, said relationship with India is most consequential. She added that the partnership is going stronger to address global challenges and to cooperate to bring peace, security and prosperity across the world. She emphasized both US and India have significantly contributed in building up democratic institutions. Delegates and representatives from Mauritius, Greece, Armenia, Spain, Nepal, Cabo Verde, Australia, Chile and other countries are attending the two-day conference. Grain was flowing out of Ukraine at a record pace on Monday under an initiative led by the United Nations aimed at easing global food shortages, despite Russia warning it was risky to continue after it pulled out of the pact. Russia on Sunday halted its role in the Black Sea deal for an indefinite term. Moscow said that it could not guarantee the safety of civilian ships traveling under the pact after a drone attack on its Black Sea fleet. A spokesperson for Odessa's military administration said a record volume of 354,000 tons of agricultural products was carried on vessels leaving Ukrainian ports on Monday as part of the Black Sea grain deal. Turkey, which helped broker the deal, remained committed to the deal, which involves the inspection of cargoes at a joint coordination center in Istanbul. Ukraine is one of the world's largest grain exporters, and the conflict with Russia led to the closure of its seaports in February, driving up food prices and contributing to a steep rise in acute hunger across the globe. Black Sea Grain Initiative was launched by Russia, Ukraine, Turkey and the United Nations on 22nd of July this year to enable the resumption of exports from Ukraine of grain, other foodstuffs and fertilizer through a safe maritime humanitarian corridor from Ukrainian ports in the Black Sea to the rest of the world.
Russia has launched massive missile strikes across Ukraine, including the capital Kiev, causing power and water outages. According to media reports, at least 2 blasts were reported in Kiev early this morning. It said that regional authorities in the northern, eastern and central Ukraine also reported missile strikes. In the northeastern city of Kharkiv, critical infrastructure facilities were also hit. The mayor of Kharkiv, Ihor Terekhov, said that the city has been struck by 2 missiles that targeted a critical infrastructure facility. Blasts were also reported in the cities of Zaporizhzhia and Cherkasy. The strikes come after Russia blamed Ukraine for a drone attack on its Black Sea fleet in the Crimea region. In Somalia, the death toll from twin car bombings in the capital Mogadishu has risen to 100. President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud said on Sunday that over 300 people are wounded and the number for both the deaths and wounded continues to increase. 2 cars packed with explosives detonated minutes apart near the busy Zobe junction on Saturday, followed by gunfire in an attack targeting Somalia's education ministry. Al-Shabaab, an Islamist group linked to Al-Qaeda, claimed responsibility for the attack. Somalia's allies swiftly denounced the bloody siege, with the United States, the United Nations and the African Union as well as Turkey, all issuing messages of support.
The death count from a storm that battered the Philippines has jumped to 98. The National Disaster Agency said on Monday that there was little hope of finding survivors in the worst-hit areas. A series of flash floods and landslides which unleashed by tropical storm Nalgae destroyed villages on the southern island of Mindanao on Friday. Civil Defense Chief of the Bangsamoro region in Mindanao said they have shifted operation from search and rescue to retrieval because the chances of survival after 2 days are almost nil. Residents shoveled mud from their houses and shops after piling their furniture and other belongings in the streets of Noveleta municipality, south of the capital, Manila. President Ferdinand Marcos began touring of the hard-hit areas on Monday, including Noveleta, as aid agencies rushed food packs, drinking water and other relief to victims. President Marcos said preemptive evacuations in Noveleta had saved lives. In a dramatic turn of events, the workers at Apple's largest iPhone factory in Chinese city of Shenzhou, the provincial capital of Henan, fled on foot to avoid the dreaded COVID-19 lockdown and infections inside the factory, hitting the iPhone supply chain in China. Pictures and video clips of workers jumping a fence outside the plant and walking back to their hometowns went viral on Chinese social media platform Weibo this weekend. Earlier, workers had taken to social media to complain about living conditions and raising concerns about further transmission and underreporting of cases at the Apple assembly factory owned by Taiwan's Foxconn Technology Group. According to analysts, at least 10% of the global iPhone production capacity is affected by the situation in Foxconn's Shenzhou factory. The Shenzhou city of about 10 million people was partially locked down as China continues with its inflexible zero-COVID approach under the third term of President Xi Jinping. Authorities required people in some areas to stay at home and others to remain within their residential district. At the recently held 20th Communist Party Congress, President Xi justified the policy and dashed any hopes of moving away from it in near future. Due to the uncertainties and economic cost of China's zero-COVID policy, Apple and many other companies have started making strategic shift for their investments and supply chain management outside China, including in India, as they continuously face disruptions in their supply chain.
India celebrated its National Unity Day on Monday. The day commemorates the birth anniversary of Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, the unifier of modern India. On the occasion, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi presided over the National Unity Day parade at the Statue of Unity at Kevadia in Gujarat. He also paid floral tributes to Sardar Patel on his birth anniversary. Addressing the gathering, the Prime Minister said, Rashtriya Ekta Divas is a tribute to the invaluable role of Sardar Patel in unifying our nation. He cautioned people against negative narratives that try to divide the country along the lines of religion, caste and language.
अतीत की तरह ही भारत के उत्कर्ष और उत्थान से परेशान होने वाली ताकतें आज भी हमें तोड़ने की हर कोशिश करती है। हमें जातियों के नाम पर लड़ाने के लिए तरह तरह के नैरेटिव गढ़े जाते हैं। प्रांतों के नाम पर हमें बांटने की कोशिश होती है। कभी एक भारतीय भाषा को दूसरी भारतीय भाषा का दुश्मन बनाने के लिए कैंपेन चलाए जाते हैं ताकि देश के लोग जुड़े नहीं बल्कि एक दूसरे से दूर हो। लेकिन हमें उन्हें जवाब देना होगा। एक हिंदुस्तानी के रूप में हमें एकजुट रहना होगा। विभेद के जहर का जवाब हमें एकता के इसी अमृत से देना है। यही नए भारत की ताकत है।
In some business news, the key domestic stock indices on Monday witnessed gains of more than 1%. A report.
The Sensex climbed 787 points or 1.31% to finish at 60,747. Nifty also gained 225 points or 1.27% to end at 18,012. At the global stock markets, Asian stock markets traded mixed. Japan's Nikkei 225 surged 1.8%, while Singapore's Straits Times and South Korea's Kospi both gained 1.1% each. On the other hand, Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index declined 1.2% and China's Shanghai Composite Index fell 0.8%. European shares were also mixed in intraday trade. Oil prices fell more than 1.5% after weaker than expected factory activity data in China. The crude prices declined also amid concerns that China's widening COVID-19 curbs will curtail demand. Brent crude prices slipped below the $95 per barrel mark. In intraday trade, Brent crude was trading at $94.45 per barrel. Back home, at the multi-commodity exchange, gold futures for December was trading at 50,330 rupees per 10 grams. Silver futures for December was trading at 57,400 rupees per kilogram when reports last came in. Lalema Aneja Dang for World News, All India Radio.
In cricket, Australia defeated Ireland by 42 runs in their Super 12 stage fixture of Men's T20 World Cup at the Gabba in Brisbane on Monday. Chasing a target of 180 runs, Ireland were bowled out for 137 in 18 overs despite an unbeaten knock of 71 runs off 28 balls by Lachlan Tucker. For Australia, Pat Cummins, Glenn Maxwell, Michelle Stark and Adam Zampa took 2 wicket hauls. Initially, the hosts posted 179 for 5 in 20 overs, courtesy of a knock of 63 runs off 44 balls by Aaron Finch. The Selection Committee of the Board of Control for Cricket in India announced Team India's T20 International and One Day International squads for the upcoming tour of New Zealand. Both the squad doesn't feature India's regular skipper Rohit Sharma, his predecessor Virat Kohli and KL Rahul. Hardik Pandya has been named the captain of the T20 international team, with Rishabh Pant set to play the role of a deputy. On the other hand, Shikhar Dhawan will lead the Indian ODI team, while Rishabh Pant has been named vice-captain. The 3-match T20 International Series will be played from 18th to 22nd of November, whereas the 3 ODIs will be held from 25th to 30th of November.
And now let's take a look at the major developments around the world as reported in the foreign press. The Financial Times in a lead item says, Lula wins Brazil presidential election in historic comeback. The Guardian writes, global anger at Sunak's COP27 snub that raises fears over UK's climate crisis stance. The Wall Street Journal reports, Russia launches barrage of strikes across Ukraine targeting infrastructure. Washington Post, quoting a report, says, South Korea confronts the trauma of Halloween crowd crush. The Globe and Mail reports that US and South Korean warplanes begin largest ever air drills. The New York Times says, China launches its space station's third and final module. CNN writes hundreds of Iranian journalists call for the release of 2 colleagues jailed in Evin prison. Japan Times informs that Japan has learned from its own deadly crowd crushes, but risks remain. And South China Morning Post writes that unusual heat, growing concern over warm spell across Europe.
A quick look at the headlines once again. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar to participate in virtual SCO meeting on Tuesday. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi chairs high-level meeting over bridge collapse in Indian state of Gujarat. 9 persons arrested in connection with tragic incident. Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva elected as new president of Brazil. Israel to hold 5th election in 4 years on Tuesday. United Nations Black Sea grain deal continues without Russia. In Philippines, death toll from tropical storm Nalgae rises to 98. And in cricket, Australia beat Ireland by 42 runs in Super 12 stage fixture of T20 World Cup in Brisbane. And now, before we end, let us listen to Mahatma Gandhi's favorite bhajan, Vaishnav Jan, by artist from Oman.
वैष्णव भजन तो तेने कहिए जे पीड़ पराई जाने रे पर दुखे उपकार करे तो ये मन अभिमान नाने रे वैष्णव भजन तो तेने कहिए जे पीड़ पराई जाने रे सकल लोग मां सहुने वंदे निंदा न करे.
And with that, we end this bulletin. We will be back at the same time tomorrow with the next edition of World News.